He is the worst.
Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leader in rushing, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Jacob in Wisconsin. We got Tim in a very, very warm Green Bay, Wisconsin as well. Here to talk some Packers. And I got to be real. The plan was to talk all offensive line on this show. We were going to break down each position, left tackle, left guard, center, kind of diving into the offseason stuff as we're awaiting news on the defensive coordinator spot being filled. And lo and behold, we get a little article put out by Ian Rapoport, very subtle, but I think it means something about Jim Leonhard. So we're going to lead off with that. Then we'll dive into left tackle, left guard, center, and kind of start to dissect this whole offseason as we get ready to fill some of these holes on the Packers roster. Before we get into it, if you would, do that YouTube stuff for me. Hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your day. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We are fans, just like each and every one of you out here talking Packers on a daily basis. So if you look for that type of content, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and click that bell icon so you don't miss out on these live streams when we do that. So, gentlemen, everybody staying safe in the cold weather up there. We good?
As warm as I can be. Got the heater going. You know,
you guys
trying
see
not
some
to push
breaking
her
news?
too hard, right? You know.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, all right, what's that, Jacob?
Did you guys see some breaking news that popped off as well?
Yeah, Mike McCarthy. Yeah.
Yes, sir. That's kind of it's interesting. Definitely.
Yeah, we got a lag bad, don't we? There's something going on here with a delay, so we'll try to get that cleaned up. Yeah, Mike McCarthy to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's what Tim was just talking about a second ago. Came down to Pike here. Looks like Coach Mike is going back to Pittsburgh. So that's awesome news, I think. I love Mike McCarthy. I think it'd be absolutely awesome if him and Aaron run it back. It would kind of put to bed that whole Aaron Rodgers hated Mike McCarthy at the end of his tenure in Green Bay, wouldn't it, Tim?
Yeah, total nonsense, right? I wonder what Aaron's thinking right now. You know, if he's maybe he's on a retreat or something. He could be in the rainforest right now or somewhere halfway across the world. Maybe he doesn't know the news, but I wonder if that plays into his decision whether or not he's going to retire or maybe sign another 1-year deal with the Steelers. So it'll be fun to watch. Plus, they got the draft. You know, they're hosting the draft this year. A lot of buzz out there in the Steel City. So big news today.
Yeah, shout out to my buddy Worth, big Steelers fan. We were talking about this the other day. I was like, I'd go after Coach Mike if it were me. I'm just saying. Jacob, you got anything you want to add to that in terms of Mike McCarthy to Pittsburgh? How you feel about it, man?
I just think, honestly, it's great. I hope that Aaron Rodgers comes back. You know, as much as it pains me to see him wear different colors and different jerseys and represent different cities, I think he's the greatest football thrower of all time. I think that's just undisputed, the way that he could dial in the accuracy, the way he protected the ball. So anytime that I get another chance to watch more Aaron Rodgers, I'm totally down for it, man.
Absolutely. There's going to be a day that he's not around and we go, man, I miss watching that dude spin that pigskin for sure. So, All right, let's get into it. Let's dive into the topic here. I'll also put a tweet out earlier. If you guys have probably already seen it, we already got the article updated here in Patreon. Mutual interest is the title here. Jim Leonhard, the Green Bay rumors continue to heat up. Now, you guys remember the other day as we walked through the whole process, Ed Werder 6-7 days ago mentioned that, right? And then it's like, okay, is that a rumor? What is that? And then other reports started to come out. Wildy talked about it. Then Rob Domofsky talked about it. We'll kind of walk you guys back through this whole process and how everything kind of fell into place. As Coach Lynn says, mutual interest, eye emoji. Here it is. So I put a tweet out, and it came from an article. I'll read the entire paragraph in the article that Ian Rapoport wrote. He tweeted it out about 12 minutes before I created this article here, or right around the time I created this article. I think it said it was 12 minutes old, his was, okay? Ian Rapoport confirms there is mutual interest between Jim Leonhard and the Packers. So here is what his paragraph, what he did, guys, is he put an entire article together talking about what these games this weekend means to the teams that are looking to fill their coaching staffs, right? So that's kind of the base of the article. And here's the paragraph he had on the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay lost its defensive coordinator to Miami when the Dolphins hired Jeff Hafley as their next head coach. The Packers have conducted a few interviews already, including with former Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon and Bears assistant Al Harris. There also is mutual interest between the Packers and Wisconsin native and ex-Badgers star Jim Leonhard, who currently is Denver's defensive pass game coordinator / assistant head coach. While nothing is set, the hope is both sides can get together for a discussion after Sunday's AFC title game. With Leonhard's ties to the state, this one makes sense. Leonhard is considered to be one of the top defensive coordinator candidates. Again, through this whole process, no one has reported Jim Leonhard had mutual interest, right? Like we've talked about from the get-go here, Ed Werder, and there's the article link too, by the way, in the Patreon group. You can just click on it, go straight to Ian's article there. Ed Werder tweeted out, Packers could be contenders for former Wisconsin DC Jim Leonhard if current Green Bay defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley is hired as a head coach. Obviously, that happened. This tweet was on January 17th. He quote tweeted a gentleman by the name of Parker Gabriel and said, perhaps worth noting that the Broncos secondary coach Jim Leonhard turned down the Packers DC job under Matt LaFleur in 2021 because he figured at the time he'd be at Wisconsin for the long haul. So then that gets filled. There's some people that seem to think Jim Leonhard didn't want to be a Packer. He turned it down and went somewhere else. He left us on red, however you want to say it, right? That's how it was. Some of the fan base was reporting it. In all honesty, he wanted to stay at Wisconsin. Now, we feel that role at defensive coordinator, things change at Wisconsin, right? So he ended up going to Illinois, and then obviously he jumps all the way across the country to Denver. I think it's safe to say he would want to be back in the state of Wisconsin, closer to home. It's my understanding he's still got family in Madison. So with all that being said, that Ed Werder kind of kicked this whole thing off. And then, of course, on Wildy and Tausch, Rob Demovsky said, I don't think anything happens until Matt LaFleur can talk to Jim Leonhard, talking about the DC spot being potentially filled. Now, you put those two together along with Jason Wildy all week long saying that he talked to someone in the building that they're very interested in Jim Leonhard. It just seemed like it was one-sided, Tim, the whole way. It was like the Packers want to talk to Jim Leonhard. The Packers are interested in Jim Leonhard. You had kind of that thing in the background where people were saying he turned us down. He didn't want to come to Green Bay, right? And then when you really filter through all the information, it truly does feel like he wanted to stay at Wisconsin. That sense has changed. This looks like with Ian Rapoport, like I said, in that new article saying that there's mutual interest. This is a signal that, hey, yeah, Jim Leonhard might be coming back to Green Bay. So let's go around the horn with it once here. Tim, how do you feel about it? I'm going to get Jacob's take on it as well. Do you think there's any smoke to this fire? Because this is a little bit different report, I feel like.
Absolutely, I do. And that's really the breaking news, right? It wasn't really a secret that the Packers were interested in him as a candidate. And I think even if you try not to speculate and, speak for Jim Leonhard or what his intentions are, hey, it's a promotion, right? He would get an opportunity to coordinate the Green Bay Packers defense. That's a huge move. I think anyone would certainly be interested in that. And then, yeah, you factor in, the hometown ties to Wisconsin and him wanting to be here. I could totally see that. There's definitely smoke to this fire. Jacob, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where back in, I believe it was it 2022, where we kind of thought this could be a possibility. At that time, I wasn't quite as sold on it as many people were. But then you'd kind of look back at his tenure. I didn't realize this. I just did a quick, little search here. So forgive me if this is wrong. They say that he grew up in Flambeau, Wisconsin, has ties, which is just, that's just crazy. I didn't realize he was a UDFA. He played multiple seasons, obviously, in the NFL, the Buffalo Bills, the Ravens, the Jets, the Broncos, Saints, Buffalo again, Cleveland. I mean, the guy's been through, hell and back as far as the NFL, is concerned. And I think my biggest gripe with him in 2022, I thought, well, he doesn't have a lot of NFL experience. I was an idiot. That was a stupid take, because clearly he's been around multiple different facilities, multiple organizations, seen the college, what it takes, been through the different ringers of what it takes to be different, on different coaching staffs, and what it takes to actually thrive in the NFL. And he's shown that he can do that. And again, to just kind of the people that say, he, like Clayton said, left us on red, turned his nose up to us. I just think that's just false. I know that personally, as a Badger fan, which it's been tough to be a Badger fan for the last, basically ever. It was something that I would have loved to see, is him actually take over the head coaching, position there, like the Luke Fickell thing, or I'm still on the edge of what's going to happen with that. Sounds like we may have some good prospects coming in, but it seems like that he was loyal to that organization. I know he's obviously loyal to the state of Wisconsin. What better fit to bring the guy back home? Let's start. And, it's going to be hard to replace a guy like Jeff Hafley. It really is, just because of the fact that, the mentorship, the teachership that he kind of had as a coach. Sometimes the numbers maybe weren't what we expected. Obviously the injuries and a lot of other factors go into that, but I would love it. I think that he's starting to edge his way towards the number one pick in my eyes. As if we could get him, I say sign the dotted line, man. Let's do it.
And again, just a quick recap. We had 4 interviews set, right? Christian Parker, Durante Jones, Jonathan Gannon, Al Harris. Christian Parker has since signed a deal with the Dallas Cowboys to be their new defensive coordinator. So the remaining interviewers, whatever you want to say, Durante Jones, Jonathan Gannon, Al Harris, and they're waiting on Jim Leonhard to become available here to obviously be interviewed. Caterpillar with the super chat. Appreciate you so much, buddy. He says, quote, just hit it, Tim. I'll wait.
Pay that man his money.
With the money bag and the cheese emoji. Love it, Caterpillar. Thank you so much for the super, pal. So, again, you can find that article over there on our Patreon group. I linked it there straight to NFL.com, so you guys will have quick access to it. And again, this thing has kind of evolved, right, as it's gone on. Ed Werder reporting, Jason Wilde reporting, and now, of course, Rob Demovsky reporting on it. Now Ian Rapoport saying there's mutual interest. You guys can go back, check this out in the Patreon group. We just did a complete deep dive into the history of his playing career, his coaching career. The big thing that stood out to me when we dove into all this, walk on at Wisconsin, ended up earning a scholarship, right? Then, of course, so he was overlooked coming out of high school, overachieved in college. He goes to the NFL, undrafted, overlooked, ended up playing 10 plus years in the league, overachieved at the NFL. And then he was overlooked in his college career or college coaching career as well. He ended up being the interim head coach there in 2022 when the head coach got fired, and he led them to a 4-3 record, which made them bowl eligible. So showed a little clutch ability down the stretch. And of course, is quickly climbing the coaching ranks there in Denver. In 2024, obviously, he was the defensive backs coach, pass game coordinator. And then this past year, he was actually promoted to assistant head coach along with defensive passing game coordinator. So one of those dudes, he's an underdog, overachiever. Boy, oh boy, you'd love to have him on the staff. Mike Witt with the super chat. Thank you, Mike. Says Jim Leonhard coaching Micah would be amazing. Look what he did with way less talented players at Wisconsin. Even if the Broncos win, can we still interview him? I have heard everybody talk circles around this topic, Mike. I still do not have an answer. We had somebody yesterday say they've already interviewed him. The Dallas Cowboys already interviewed Jim Leonhard. I'm going, I don't think that's true. But hell, what do I know? I don't know what's going on at this point, to be honest with you. The way I understand the rules is the week in between the Super Bowl that the team can grant permission for them to interview, right? And that would be a phone interview, most likely a virtual interview, if you will. And then once the team is eliminated, it would be an in-person interview. I've also heard other people say you can do in-person interviews during that week. I don't know. Do your own research. I can't find anything in the rule book that says strictly here are the rules. So I think it's more of a permission granted type thing from the current team. So appreciate the super chat there, Mike. I'm curious to know, you guys are watching this back later in the comments. Let us know, how do you feel about the Jim Leonhard update? Because it seems like every time we hear something on Jim Leonhard, it's one step closer to this might actually happen, right? As Coach Lynn says here, if hired, I wonder who he would add to his staff. Who would he pull away from the current staff too, right, Coach? How many are Jeff Hafley going to poach? They're actually waiting for the current defensive coordinator in Miami, who I think they want to hold on to. He might potentially get a job somewhere as well. I think it's Anthony Weaver, if I remember correctly. So that trickle-down effect is going to come into play as well. But let us know in the comments if you're watching this back later. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on any future live streams. And now, gentlemen, let's shift gears to talking offensive line play here. Now, I just put a little article up in Patreon, if you will, I guess, fixing the O-line. All right. I think we would all agree here, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, one of the biggest needs going into this offseason, one of the biggest weaknesses is the same as it was going into last offseason, offensive line play. We all came out of that loss against the Philadelphia Eagles. got our asses kicked in the trenches, and it's like, man, we got to bolster this offensive line. We got to be able to play bully ball up front, right? So what did Goody do? He went out and spent a second-round pick on Anthony Belton, and he went out and paid pretty big money for Aaron Banks in free agency. Now, we'll talk about the details of that contract when we get to the left guard position. But let's start off with left tackle, all right? With left tackle. Now, there was some big news this morning. If you guys didn't hear, Rasheed Walker was arrested in New York, traveling with a firearm. We'll wait for all that to kind of play out before, obviously we know exactly how that may affect his free agency. He was set to be a free agent anyway. I think we all kind of agreed in unison here on this particular program that probably wouldn't be back in Green Bay at $20 million per year, which seems to be the market value for Sheeto. So, with all that being said, you can go back and watch that video. I'll make sure it's attached to the end of this one. If not, just scroll down and you'll be able to find it here on the YouTube channel. Just kind of the details surrounding that. But left tackle, I think we might have him in-house already. That does not mean, please, everybody, hear me clearly. That does not mean you don't continue to try to build that room. That does not mean if the perfect prospect falls to you in the second, third, even fourth round where you go, man, we've got a grade on this left tackle that's 2 rounds higher than the current round we're in. You may pull the trigger, go get that left tackle, and he may beat Jordan Morgan out, right? I see that highly unlikely that would be the approach because they seem to really like Jordan Morgan at left tackle. I do as well. Tim, we've kind of talked about this, man. You look at the PFF grades, offensive grade overall for Jordan Morgan, not great, 62.0. Pass block grade strong at a 68.8. Run blocking is where he struggled, but he played guard the majority of the year. You did see him improve from last year, 59.2 to a 62.0. But the thing that most people are missing here, if you focus on these bottom 4 grades down here where my cursor's at, right? He actually played tackle the last 4 games of the season, and you'll notice his grades. Forget everything else. Right tackle, 63.2. Right tackle, 79.7. Left tackle 61.4, right tackle 77.1. There can be a case made for him moving to right tackle and moving and having Zach Tom play left tackle. We know Zach Tom can play all over the offensive line. I wouldn't rule that out. But right now, I would feel comfortable as Coach Lynn, get out of my head, right? Tom to left tackle. I would feel more comfortable saying they probably have Jordan Morgan at left tackle. I like that, Tim, because that's his natural position. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. There was somebody the other day, I think Rob Demoski was on with Wildy and Tausch and them, and he was like, stop messing with Jordan Morgan. Let him play the position that he played his entire life. But, Tim, what's your early take on this, man, in terms of starting left tackle? Would you be okay with Jordan Morgan being there?
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about this since we drafted him, I mean, what can you do? I think, him being, at right guard or left guard on occasion, it's just an effort to get your first round draft pick on the field. Right. I think, you want this guy to get reps and get snaps. I think going into 2026 season, if he's in a position where he can kind of settle into that role, on the left side, I could totally see him growing into it. And, you hit it on the head here. You look at these last 4 games here, just based off of PFF, you can see the improvement already. He's clearly more comfortable at the tackle position, especially the left side. I think, it's really telling to see the way that the blocking changed when he was on the left side of the line as opposed to the right side. So who knows? I think he's proven that he can play both, but I would rather see him as a tackle than an interior guy, I think, at the NFL level for sure.
Yeah, when you look at those last 4 games where he played tackle, Jacob, essentially what you're going to have is him grading out on average in the 70s. I think is someone had put a tweet out where him at tackle, his grade was like a 72 PFF grade. That's strong. That's stout. That's better than Rasheed Walker. So the reality is you may be skipping out. You may be bypassing a $20 million cap hit on average for Rasheed Walker and having Jordan Morgan improve the left tackle position in terms of starters or in terms of the starting left tackle. And drop down to what, $4 or $5 million per would be the cap hit for Jordan Morgan. What's your take on this, man? I'll get to Mike Witt here in a second.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Jeffrey Schmidt is saying he's basically Emilio incarnate. We just have to have Travis Glover in there, and that's what we need. No, but in all seriousness, to Tim's point, I believe that what they did in this past year was just get this guy some playing time, get him on the field, get him up to speed with NFL, what it takes. And honestly, I don't think that they necessarily planned that, but it's like once the cards kind of got dealt the way they were, and the musical chairs started being played and we had the injuries that happened, it was like, all right, let's just throw him into the fire, see what he can do. Obviously, we know what we had in Sheed. I think they were comfortable with that. But again, to Tim's point, it's like he's not a guy that needs to play guard. He's not a guy that needs to play on the right side. I think you look back at almost 100% of his snaps, even through high school and definitely through college, it was on the left side at left tackle. He knows how to protect. He knows how to pass protect. I really do think that once we kind of just get him back to doing what he's used to be doing, I mean, obviously, first round draft pick, there's no way that they're just going to give up on him, right? And just throw the baby out with the bathwater type thing. And I'm honestly interested to see if he can kind of reconcile his reputation, make him more respected in the NFL and more specifically, obviously, with the Packers fan base. And yeah, you look at that whole snap count right there. It's just guard, left guard, right guard, right guard, left guard. And then all of a sudden, when he's in the tackle position, all of a sudden you see some numbers start to spike. All of a sudden you see like he's kind of getting himself together. You know, they always talk about, switching from right to left is wipe with your different hand. See how that works when you're on the toilet next time. All right. It's not as easy as people think it can, where you can just switch sides and be at the same playing level. To me, it's just unfair to ask a player to do that. And I do understand probably what they tried to do is just give this guy a chance to see, like I said, NFL speed, get him acclimated. But at this point going forward, he's a left tackle. Put him in that slot.
I mean, he played so much on the interior that PFF's got him listed as a guard, right?
Exactly.
Up there at the top, it's like we all know he's a tackle,
What do you guys quick think about our Aaron Rodgers talking about this is his, I would assume, his preferred lineup? Jordan Morgan, left tackle. Banks, he's still sticking with him, left guard. Linderbaum, a guy I remember listening to your podcast just the other day talking about him, which would be amazing. Belton, and then Tom.
Yeah, it's interesting. For me personally, I think I would rather us move on from Aaron Banks. If you do a post-June cut, you can free up, I think the number is $18 million. We'll get to that when we get to left guard. Linderbaum is definitely – he's my guy this year in free agency. We do it every year. The year before we talked about Xavier McKinney and loved him. Lo and behold, day one, we went out and got him, right? It was absolutely awesome. Last year, we were going Drew Dalman. Well, the Bears scooped him up, and you see how dominant their offensive line was this year in Ben Johnson's inaugural year there as the Bears head coach. Anthony Belton at right guard. Listen, you got to try to let him grow. Don't keep moving him around. Let him settle into right guard. Let's see if he can play right guard. And then, of course, Zach Tom can play anywhere on the offensive line for sure. So, for me, I'm not ready to just crown Anthony Belton, although him being a second-round pick. Goody will definitely put pressure on the coaching staff to make sure he gets playing time, I'm sure. But hopefully it ends up being a great fit there with Anthony Belton. How cool would that be if you've got your starting right guard for the next 3 years on a rookie contract and a second-round pick contract at that? Is a really nice look for sure. So in terms of backups right now at left tackle and what they've got listed on regular side, like I went and looked at a site, Our Lads, I think they have Brant Banks as the backup as well. Obviously, Rasheed Walker's set to be an unrestricted free agent. So the reason I point out the backup role there's still room to add people to this. You may go out and draft somebody. You may go out and get a left tackle, right? And if you do that and he doesn't crack the starting lineup, imagine this. Imagine if you move on from Brant Banks and Elton Jenkins. Elton Jenkins, you free up $20 million in cap space. Banks, if you do post-June 1, you're freeing up roughly $18 million. If you just cut him outright and get it off the books right away, you'd be freeing up $4 million. So you got potentially $38 million you could free up between two players. And then imagine you go out and draft a rookie player, a rookie offensive lineman, and you hit on that. All right, play him at left guard, and you're off and running, and you can reduce the cap hit moving forward. All of that kind of plays into the perfect scenario, in my opinion. So Rasheed Walker, again, last year, not great, 63.0. He was definitely a solid pass blocker, 69.3 pass blocking grade. But you'll notice that's not much different than our boy Jordan Morgan, right? So, again, I'm okay with moving forward with Jordan Morgan. And, of course, the calculated market value before the incident today at LaGuardia, or yesterday, I should say, at LaGuardia Airport in New York with Rasheed Walker, it was $20.3 million. We'll see if that changes. The comments were kind of varying when we did the show earlier today. Some people were saying this is a big nothing burger. It won't affect the number. Other people were going, this guy just cost himself a lot of money. Only time will tell, right? Hopefully, for Rasheed's case, it doesn't completely screw him out of a great free agency here. In terms of statistical comparisons, we got all that in there as well. So that's kind of the left tackle breakdown as it sits right now. If you guys are watching this video back later, let us know in the comments, how do you feel about the left tackle position? Do you feel comfortable with Jordan Morgan? Do you think they should go and try to fill that void with free agency? There'll be, once we get through the entire offensive line in this series, we'll show you some of the top targets, the top free agents, the top draft picks. We're already putting prospect reports up in the Patreon group. You guys can find that at patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. And you can also get access to our draft board as it continues to evolve as well. But let us know in the comments, what do you think about the left tackle position? Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. All right, let me get back to these super chats real quick, then we'll move on to left guard. Mike Witt with the super. Thank you so much, buddy. He says, so if the Patriots win tomorrow, Leonhard will be hired by Wednesday is my prediction. As far as the draft, everyone talking about cornerback, but I think our number one priority should be center. I agree with that, Mike. Not that corner shouldn't be a target, but number one target, if you don't button up the center position, the offense is going to continue to be inconsistent, especially if you have one or two injuries. Now, when we get to the center spot, if we have time today, Jacob Monk's got me my interest peaked a little bit. We'll talk about that here in a minute if we get around to it. Thank you for that super. And then Mike Witt with another super says, hot take, the way Rashid played the last half of the season, Morgan should have gotten way more snaps at left tackle. Rashid was downright bad the second half of the season, in my opinion, and nobody seems to talk about it. I agree, Mike. The penalties were the big thing for me, man. Thank you for the supers, Mike. We would get in a situation constantly where it was like, damn, there's a pre-snap penalty. Who was it? And it was always Sheed. It was like, son of a gun, man. Like, you're supposed to be the veteran. And that's the problem with having the youngest roster in the league, right? Yep. Like, that was our veteran, essentially, was Rasheed Walker at left tackle, former 7th-round pick. So at least in that spot, aside from Aaron Banks, who obviously we have mixed feelings on that. So there you go. Thank you for that super chat. Appreciate you, Mike. You're the man. All right, let's move along now to left guard. And, of course,
holy cheeks alert.
Here's this guy right here. And we're talking about, of course, our boy Aaron Banks, the big free agent signing from Brian Gutekunst last offseason. Man, it just hasn't worked out. And here's what's crazy, too, is like, we weren't crazy about the signing when it happened. I know I was very vocal in saying, listen, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I understand offensive line evaluation more than Brian Gutekunst or anybody on his staff. I'm just a dumb redneck fan that loves the game of football. I have no idea how to evaluate properly and all that. Goody went out. When he signed him, immediately people pull the PFF grades. They pull the tape. There's a lot to like there. I mean, 6'5", 325. We said we wanted to play bully ball, right? Go get a big mauler, get a guy up front. So on the surface, it was like, okay, this may make sense. Now, when you looked at the contract, it was really a one-year deal plus 3. We'll talk about that in a second. But the PFF grades, 56, 59, 52, and then 2024, 65.4. You go, oh, all right, maybe he's taking a jump here. Maybe you're catching him ascending, right?
65%.
65%. That's what he goes back to 55.6, and I think we would all agree it was tough to watch. Former second-round pick. The fact that Goody was willing to go out there and put some money on the table for Aaron Banks tells me he probably had a grade somewhere in the second round, maybe even higher. Who knows? But when you look at his current contract breakdown, this is what we were talking about. Notice the potential out here from Spot Track. Potential out is 2026, 1 year, $29.4 million with a dead cap of 20.2. So really the numbers you want to look at is the cap hit and the dead cap attached. So when we fast forward to 2026, the cap hit is $24.8 million. The dead cap, $20.2 million, meaning you can free up over $4 million in cap space. However, if you go to over the cap, you can see here with a post June 1 cut, you're freeing up $18 million. Now, keep in mind, that doesn't get him completely off the books in year 2. That kind of splits that cap a little bit, and a little bit more falls on next year, which I think we wouldn't be overly concerned about. So the reality is you can free up $4 million, wipe him off the books completely, or you can do a post-June 1 cut, kick a little bit of it down the road, and free up $18 million right now. Now, when you look at the rest of the left guard position here, your backups are Lasita Smith, who, as we found out, was our emergency center. I got to be honest, I feel like he held his own considering he was thrown into the fire, right?
Super good dude. Got to meet him at camp last year. Lasita Smith, stand-up guy. Probably not the worst third or fourth string emergency center that you could have, and possibly a guy who could help us out at the guard position, honestly, if we have issues. So shout out Lasita Smith.
And then you got the rookie 7th round pick, John Williams. I think he was actually a tackle. Now, he had back surgery, so we didn't see him at all this year. They started to try to open that practice window, and he never really seen any time on the field. Obviously, he didn't get completely activated. But those are your 2 backups as it sits right now. So if we're going to move on from Aaron Banks, you better have a backup plan, right? Who is that backup plan? How would you approach that? I feel like left guard, if you do move on from Aaron Banks. Now, do I think they will? They probably won't. They'll probably give it another year. I wouldn't be surprised. There's got to be an adjustment to that $24.8 million cap hit, obviously. I would like to see them move in a different direction. There's Joe Trev, a.k.a. Ike Turner, in the chat, says, I remember 49ers fans saying, holy overpay.
I remember that too.
I do too.
Numerous posts. I've seen them.
And you
I
know
got
what
a question for you, Clay. Just real quick.
My response was, Tim, shut up. Anyway, go ahead.
Right, because you want to believe the best, right? You want to see the best. I'm just putting this out there. I think the consensus, at least among the PTA posse, is that we're probably done with the Elton Jenkins experience in Green Bay. The writing's on the wall. But my question is, if he does test the market, it's lukewarm for him, and he's able to sign a deal here to stay in Green Bay and move back to left guard. Is there an interest in Elton, even though he's at that dirty 30? We've seen his best football seems to have been at left guard. Mm-hmm. We tried moving him to center. Wasn't horrible, wasn't great. What are your thoughts? How do you feel about that? If we were able to get that done, keep him here, on a 3-year deal or something, which is really a 2-year, and kind of put a Band-Aid over that left guard position, one less thing to kind of worry about with some veteran play there.
I think it makes a lot of sense, but I'm kind of indifferent on it, because, and I want to get your take on this too, Jacob, because like the big thing that sticks out to me is you're seeing him decline here. If you look at the PFF grades, 69, 66, 82, 72, 64, 65, 62. So there seems to be a decline there, right? That worries me a little bit. What if he's as bad as Aaron Banks was this year? If you decide to move on from Aaron Banks, bring Elton back on a restructured deal. Now, Elton Jenkins' contract is currently at $24.8 million. Okay. So he's sitting at $24.8 million, the same exact cap hit as Aaron Banks. However, if you cut him, you free up $20 million. The way I would approach it, Tim, I would cut him and say, hey, go get your best offer on the market and come back and see us. Now, he may tell us to kick rocks when he comes back, right? That he may not come back. He may not answer the call. But if he goes into free agency and all he can get is $8 million, I would be okay for bringing Elton back at $10 million. And I think that's a great plan. You put him at left guard. If you can go out and get a Tyler Linderbaum at center, boy, if you paint that picture from left to right, Jordan Morgan, Elton Jenkins, Tyler Linderbaum, Anthony Belton, Zach Tom, and then you add some, maybe a draft pick or two, you add another free agent piece, who knows, maybe somebody on the backside of and we'll talk about right tackle later on, probably tomorrow's episode, but like Darian Kennard being a solid backup, if you bring him back as a restricted free agent, that would help as well. I don't hate it, Tim, for the right price, but that goes for every player, right? So
I popped Coach Len's comment up here. I wonder if he's, interjecting this too, because we're forgetting about Nacho Libre, and Sean Ryan has looked, pretty decent at right guard, and played a little center for us. But maybe the thought, if it's not Elton, do you move Sean Ryan to left guard in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. These positions are kind of intertwined, right?
Yeah.
And like when you look at Sean Ryan, 49, 61, 59, PFF doesn't like him, obviously. At the center position here, I'm trying to see, it doesn't show what he ranked at the center position. Yeah, it does 20th. So he was the 20th highest graded center in the league last year. Now his run blocking, obviously better than pass blocking, 65.6. We got to be prepared for him to be a little bit of a leak there at left guard, right? At the 42.4 pass blocking grade. For the right price, I'd like to have Sean Ryan back as well. Now, if it comes down to Elton Jenkins at $10 million or Sean Ryan at say $5 million, give me Sean Ryan and go hit free agency, right? Try to fill this void. Jacob, what's your take on this so far, man? And I see the super chats. We're going to get to all of them, I promise, guys.
Yeah, we got a couple of them piling up. But honestly, I'll just say this, that going into this year, I was very hopeful about our offensive line and what the depth was there. going into this offseason, I'm severely worried about our starting lineup and our backups. Just us highlighting this right now, I feel like that barring, the fact that if we can just guarantee that Zach Tom stays healthy, that Jordan Morgan's going to be a stud left tackle, that we'll figure it out at the left guard position. We'll just figure out how we get a good center. And then our right guard is a second-year player, third-year player, whoever we want to interject there, and they're going to be stud. To me, that is a lot of ifs and buts. And, to me, it's a lot more hopium than anything else. And I just need us, if anything, I saw a comment, I believe I highlighted it, talking how like we got to address offensive line in the second, maybe the third round, maybe in the off season, maybe in free agency. Because to me, that's our biggest bleeding area on this team. Jordan Love, the guy can't do much more than what he did in that playoff game. And honestly, throughout the season, but he's running for his life and he doesn't have a lot of time back there and he doesn't have the ability to kind of go through his reads. You know what I mean? And obviously we saw what Josh Jacobs could do when he had just a tiny sliver of a hole. And the fact that we're just kind of just expecting these guys to make chicken, you know what I'm saying? I
love that picture of Josh Jacobs. It's literally Josh Jacobs gets hit by 4 people in the backfield and he somehow leaves that pile behind him.
You know what I'm saying? It just, to me, it seems like that is the biggest. We're trying to, it feels like we're putting Band-Aids on bullet wounds right now on that offensive line. And I really just want us to go in, do a full-on surgery, and let's just regroup that whole situation because, and that includes the coach as well. The offensive line coach, I believe, you start with the top, you work your way down. But like, I just, to me, it feels like we need to do a complete revamp on this situation.
I don't want to
when you look at the calculated market,
poop my hands. So
thanks, Coach. When you look at the calculated market value for Sean Ryan, we're talking about $6.5 million average annual salary. We know that can be a little low, that can be a little high. Let's say the number holds true. You're looking at a cap hit next year of about $4 million. Sign me up for Sean Ryan for four or five against the cap next year, right?
I'll take that.
You could give him a 3-year deal and sweeten the pot a little bit with a little more guaranteed money. You get out of that deal within 1 year if you wanted to, right? If for anything, just a parallel there with Nacho Libre would be worth money, I think, personally. So falling back now, let's talk Jacob Monk. Are we overlooking Jacob Monk, guys? And again, there's not a whole lot of snaps here, right? I don't want us to get out over our skis, but he played 17 snaps in week 17, 6 snaps in week 17. And then he ended up playing, 51-ish snaps, 52-ish snaps, over 50 snaps there in week 18. His grade, 73.7, what if we look up in the offseason and Jacob Monk is the starting center?
Here's the guy.
This is a guy, a former 5th-round pick that this coaching staff loved. They raved over this guy when they drafted him. Tim, you remember? Because we looked at the tape and we wasn't like over the moon, but the coaches loved Jacob.
He's a pure center, right? He was a pure center at Duke, right?
At Duke. And Tim, I think he was a very, very rare 4 or 5 year captain. Like he was a captain every year on the team.
So I think you're right. Maybe we are sleeping a little bit here. And I know if Emilio was on with us right now, he'd definitely be, co-signing that. He knows about his homie Travis Glover. I'm sure he's excited for Travis Glover's future. But some of these old linemen that have kind of been under the radar, I wonder if Emilio would agree that maybe we do have an answer and he's in house and he just needs a crack at this.
Tim, how crazy would it be if next year 2 of the 5 positions is Jacob Monk and Travis Glover and they actually succeed?
Right.
And then we have 2 other draft picks that a lot of people, again, with Morgan, and let's say maybe it's Belton, and then we know what we have in Tom. Like and I'll ask you all, you're the guy that's there on the field in Green Bay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Jacob Monk was one of those guys that pre-injury, he was hyping up the sidelines.
Oh, yeah.
During the OTAs, like just a man of the people sort of thing, right? He's running around literally getting people jacked up pregame for the OTAs and for the practices. Like that's kind of what you want, right?
Yeah, someone who wants to be there and loves their job, right?
Exactly.
And a center is an extension of your quarterback on that offensive line. You have to have your head in the game. You have to know the protections, but you also have to be a leader out there on that O-line. And man, maybe there's smoke to that fire. Don't sleep on Jacob Monk. He certainly fits the mold. He's built like a center. He's played a lot of center. Graded out pretty good according to PFF. I mean,
in college they graded out amazing, right? That Duke O-line was no joke.
And I think him going into OTAs or camp, this year as the backup isn't the worst thing. I'm not saying you don't go out and find another center.
Right.
But Jacob Monk could provide depth there at that position.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, it's going to be interesting to kind of see how everything unfolds here in the offseason. Again, we kind of hit on guard, left guard, and center together. So we'll just kind of group those together. I want to ask everybody, if you're watching this video back later, let us know in the comments, how do you feel about left guard and center? Everything we've thrown out several different game plans you could potentially have to fix in these spots, right? Would you rather keep Elton Jenkins around? Maybe you think, no, let's keep him around. You could do a restructure too. Keep that in mind. He may be open to a restructure where you guarantee a little bit of the base salary, try to shave some of that money off. You could also do voidable years. I'm just kind of to the point where, unless he's willing to take a decent pay cut, I think it would be more respectful and make more sense to let him test the market, come back with the best offer, then you can kind of reevaluate where you're at as an organization. But let us know in the comments what you think. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on any future streams. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. I want to say this before we get to these super chats too, guys. I want everybody who's watching live. We had a bunch of people watching live. Thank y'all so much. If you tuned in because you seen the thumbnail about the Jim Leonhard update, go to the front of the show, okay? Go to the very, very first of the show. That's the first thing we covered. I don't want to mislead anybody with that. That's what we led off with. Now we're talking offensive line. So make sure you guys just rewind it back. Be kind, rewind, all right? Go back and you can check that. Some people are
showing our age there, Clayton.
Some people are too young. They go, what's that mean? No, don't worry about it. It's some old whippers.
Back in the day where if you wanted to watch a movie and they just didn't have enough of them, you couldn't watch the movie. Imagine that. You had to wait.
The good old days, man. The good old days. Let's get these super chats caught up here before we wrap up, guys. Mike Witt. Oh,
sorry.
Yeah, Blockbuster, baby.
Yeah.
Chuck knows what's up.
Absolutely. All right. Big Mike Witt. Mike Witt with the super chat. Thank you, Mike. He says, with Big Mike officially hired in Pittsburgh, do you think Aaron comes back for one more dance with Mike next year? I think that would be absolutely awesome. Willie, I don't know, man. Aaron's is obviously it's going to take a lot to
He's an enigma.
Yes, he is an enigma. If you don't believe me, go watch it, okay? But I think it would be great, man, being able to root those two on. Here's the other thing, too. Does Mike want him back? Not that they have any ill feelings toward each other, but maybe Mike is like, okay, they've got Will Howard out there. Maybe I can go handpick my quarterback of the future, that type of thing. But I think it makes a lot of sense, especially if Aaron's willing to come back for $10 million again or whatever the cap number was.
He said that publicly. Right? Not to cut you off. Sorry, Clay.
You get
Aaron said that publicly, right? Like, I don't give a damn about the money. I'll play for, minimum here. We're talking $9-10 million, whatever it is. But you're right. I think we're glossing over the fact that, it's up to Big Mike. He's that dude over there. What direction does he want to go offensively? But I'm with you, man. That would be awesome. I think Aaron Rodgers is at least considering it. He's got to be thinking, hey, why not? I don't. If he's going to play football another year, he's going to want to play football in Pittsburgh. I don't see him going to another team.
Yeah, completely agree. Joe Trev with the super chat. Do you think Leonhard will bring cornerback Jaquan McMillan with him if he becomes DC, and assuming the Broncos let McMillan go? It's possible, they're going to have some of their favorites. Listen, I don't want to be overly negative towards Brian Gutekunst, but I do think that Brian Gutekunst runs kind of a tight ship. I'm sure he will take recommendation from the coaches, but I feel very confident and comfortable saying that he believes in the way he builds rosters. And yeah, okay, I'll be a sounding board, sure, but at the end of the day, Goody's going to do what he thinks is best, whether that's right or wrong. I know there's some portion of the fan base that don't like Goody as a GM. There's another portion that do. I'm kind of in the middle. I've defended him in the past, but I'm also acknowledging that, hey, man, he's made some mistakes here lately, right? So we got to keep it real in that regard. I hope he is 100% correct on every decision he makes moving forward. I think that's where I differ from some of the Goody haters, where they're kind of rooting for him to do bad so they can say, I was right, let's fire him. I don't understand that way of fandom, to be honest with you. But with what Ike Turner says here, a.k.a. Joe Trev, what do you think, Jacob? Would you be okay with Jim Leonhard being able to handpick a couple guys to bring with him?
Yeah, just because specifically, wasn't he the DB's coach in that role? And we've seen what he's done, obviously, in his career, how he's played. I mean, you got to trust a guy that if you can coach and look what he's done at pretty much everywhere that he's went. There's been a few guys that just kind of shine in that secondary. And if you could get him matched up with some of the unbelievably proficient minds of guys like Evan Williams, Xavier McKinney. Now you throw in a stud corner. Maybe we get a couple of young guys in the draft. Maybe a few of these guys that have been kind of on the fence that we're not quite sure of, whether it's a Carrington.
First name that came into my head. Just taking another step, right? That'd be
figure out how to get the most out of your players. If that's a guy that is kind of that DB whisperer, if you want to say it that way, then yeah, bring him. And if you have a guy that you think, it's kind of like Bisaccia when he came over from the Raiders. It seemed like he had a little bit of pull as to saying like, hey, I've been with this guy. I know what he's capable of. Whether that's on one side or the other of the ball, you know what I mean? Like, because I believe that a good coach, they're not just sitting there with a tunnel vision looking at just they're probably watching the whole spectrum, right? And they're looking at a bigger aperture of what's actually going on with the team. So I would trust their judgment, especially because like we have our scouts, right? We have our coaches and everything like that, and they're going to have their opinions. But when you have a guy, if they're going to, let's say that our scouts go and see a guy like at the draft or the combine or whatever the case may be, they got to spend like a day or two with him, right? Whatever the case may be, maybe hours, maybe just a few even snaps. But then you got a guy that spent years, or even a full year, a full season watching what a guy can and can't do, knowing what positions he was put into and what he wasn't allowed to do and vice versa. Totally. Bring him over.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very well said. Mike Witt with the super chat. Thank you, Mike. He says, don't we save a bunch of money also if we cut Gary, or am I wrong? You are correct, sir. Gary is $28 million against the cap. If you cut him outright, you free up $11 million. You can free up even more if you do a post-June cut. I don't have that exact number here, so you can free up more if you want to go that route. I think Gary's one of those guys that if they do decide to bring him back, it's got to be at a reduced rate. And if he's not willing to do that, maybe we've seen the last of Rashawn Gary as a Packer. But if he's willing to take a pay cut and you can move some of that money around, Rashawn Gary was your best run defender on the defensive line last year outside of Micah Parsons, of course. So I think it would be beneficial to try to bring him back at the right price, definitely not at $28 million. We've reached the point in the Gary contract where it's finally here where, okay, now something's got to be adjusted because the majority of the guaranteed money is gone now. And now you're to the point where you can reduce that cap, whether you move on or you decide to maneuver that around with a restructure. So that's kind of how I feel there. Mike Z with the super chat. Thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate you. He says, to me, a Linderbaum signing is paramount. And I would not be against our first two picks being O-line. Jordan Love clean is a Super Bowl run. PTA best in the game. Appreciate you, Mike. Listen, Jordan Love, his passer rating when a clean pocket was phenomenal, dude. It was, he was
bad man right there. J Money, the dime thrower.
So my big thing, Mike, is you've got to get better at run blocking, and Linderbaum does that for you. Now, this is why I try to curb the enthusiasm on potential free agent signings, because Baltimore may jump up and just re-sign him, and we've wasted all this time talking about him, right?
Or we talked about Drew Dahlman all last year during this time, and I don't think we even made an offer. Did we even make an offer to Dahlman? Okay, so do they even make an offer? That's a question too.
Right. We're just kind of giving our opinion on the players that we like and the ones that are really flashing to us at the moment, right? Also with draft picks, we're going to spend time talking about you'll notice the scouting reports that I've already put up over on Patreon. I've been firing them off on X as well. And by the way, shout out to our newest Patreon members here. Kenneth Davis just joined, and Isaiah Diker. I hope I'm saying that right. Deeker or Diker. Thank you so much for joining the Patreon group. Appreciate the support. It's the best way to support what we do here at PTA. Patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. We appreciate everybody there. You also get access to the draft board. Since we're kind of talking about it, this is a glimpse of our draft board as it sits right now. Try to zoom out just a touch if I can. So you'll notice it's really starting to come together. The average here, our top prospect right now is Rusty Undercarriage. He's a long snapper from Fart Box Technical College.
He was scouted and also a little player development courtesy of Jacob the Beard.
I was going to say, he was a young
in Rusty's development.
He was at the Oval Office, played all 4 years.
People they're already canceling their Patreon now when they see like this ain't serious. So we needed a placeholder, so I just threw that one. But no, in all honesty, Edge defender Ruben Baines leading the way right now. Low number wins 3.7. You'll notice we got the PFF grades all logged, the PFF big board, the consensus big board. We got Senior Bowl coming up. Daniel Jeremiah's big board. I think Tuesday he's putting his top 50 out, so we'll start to put in numbers there, and it's all going to balance out. So Ruben Bain, Fernando Mendoza, Jeremiah Love at the top of the board as it sits right now. Now, if we sort, and you guys can do this over there, you sort by position, we're sitting here talking about interior offensive line, right? If we scroll all the way down, we got over 800 prospects as it sits right now. And we're trying to get organized and remove the ones that have now declared that they're going back to college to play. Notice the blue, those are your centers. So the top prospects at center right now, Jake Slaughter from Florida, 38.8 is the grade. That would kind of make him worthy of somewhere around the 30 range, 30 to 40 range in terms of picks. Connor Liu is one at 55.5. Keep in mind, he tore his ACL in October, so we got to get an update on that. We'll make sure that you guys are aware who's injured and who wasn't. Logan Jones seems to be the fan favorite right now, center out of Iowa, 72.0. Notice the consensus big board has him at 107. We've got him at a 72.0. Good value there if he does go around the 100 mark. So look for him, somebody there anywhere from the second to fourth round possibly. He may go earlier. Again, as we get closer to the draft, that stuff is going to change. Pat Coogan out of Indiana. Consensus big board has him currently at 140. We've got him 84.8. That would be great value as well. So, again, keep an eye on those four centers. They're leading the clubhouse right now for us in terms of potential center prospects. That's what you get with our draft board over there in the Patreon group. Now, we had some other super chats here. Soder with the super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. He said, is there a free agent center besides Linderbaum that would be worth a look at the expected contract value? So I already closed it. Actually, I didn't. Let me go real quick. I'm not going to put it on the screen, but we identified Tyler Linderbaum. His calculated market value, 17.7. Next on the list is a tackle, Braden Smith, although he's 29 years old. Hey, we need to get a little older, right? That's one that's kind of intriguing to me. He played for the Colts last year. They had a solid offensive line. His calculated market value is 13.5. In terms of other free agents, okay, center Tyler Linderbaum, we talked about. Connor McGovern, Solder, is one to look at from Buffalo, okay? His calculated market value is $16.2 million. He's 28 years old. He's 3 years older than Tyler Linderbaum. The thing about Linderbaum is he's not even 26 yet, so he's hitting the market at the perfect time, right? And then, of course, you got to scroll down a little ways. Cade Mays from Carolina, his calculated market value as a center, $12.2 million, all right? And then you got some interior offensive linemen at guard, David Edwards from Buffalo, Connor McGovern we talked about, Ed Ingram from Houston, former second-round pick. He had a 73.8 grade. And we're gonna talk extensively about these as we move forward, but that's just a handful of names there. You've got a couple of lesser known centers, right? Like Luke Fortner for the Saints is calculated at 6.1 million. He's actually right behind Sean Ryan. So to answer your question, there are a few. Connor McGovern grabs my attention a little bit there in terms of center, along with, like we had mentioned, Cade Mays of Carolina. Might want to take a look at him. Thank you for the super, Soda. Appreciate you. Mike Witt with the super chat. If Steno follows Halfley to Miami, I'd love Green Bay to hire Jason Vrabel for OC. I think he's done a good job coaching the receivers, in my opinion. People have been kind of up and down on Vrabel. You know, last year we had a drop issue. This year that seemed to get fixed, right? So some people love him, some people, don't. Now, I will say this, Mike McDaniel, it sounds like he's pulled his name from a couple of head coaching offers, right? Or not offers, but interviews. It sounds like he's settling in as OC with the LA Chargers. I wouldn't be surprised if things got shuffled, and I guarantee you right now, if Adam Stenavich got poached, right? And I don't think he would, but if he did get poached from the Packers, I think Matt LaFleur, the first call he would make is Mike McDaniel. And he's probably already talked to Mike McDaniel, right? So that would be my top choice. I wouldn't be opposed to Jason Vrabel being the offensive coordinator. What do y'all think about that? How would y'all feel about Vrabes being your offensive coordinator in Green Bay?
Wouldn't be my first choice, but certainly wouldn't be my last either. If that makes any sense.
Kind of middle, kind of middle of the pack.
I agree completely with that, Tim. Yeah.
Got it. There you go, Mike. Appreciate the super. And then Mike again with another super says, unfortunately, I think Linderbaum is following Harbaugh and going to the Giants, in my opinion. That would make a lot of sense, right, Mike? That would make a lot of sense if he said, "Hey, I want my center up here," and we know that they put a lot of emphasis on starting center as an important position. Somebody gonna say something just now? I'm sorry.
I mean, they need it. They need it.
Yeah,
They've got some weapons there. Mike's really looking at this from a logical standpoint. I think there's a lot of truth to that approach. I wouldn't say it's it's probably more than possible. It could be almost probable. You could see that.
Yeah, I could see it. All right. So thank you for the super, Mike. Appreciate you. And I think that's all of them, guys. We should be good. Jake,
although it's never gonna happen, I would just absolutely dance around like a little girl, like just grinning ear to ear, like Emilio in his race car bed while he's playing Madden on Rookie. I would just be dancing off the ceiling if John Gruden, in any capacity, I don't care what you give him label, if he came in, just because I want to watch the post-game or pre-game conferences of him just going, hey, here's again, just that John Gruden grit, man. I want it so bad. I know it's never going to happen, but
I don't
Bates
think
is talking about his game sounds are electric. They're just so fun, man.
He just loves the game. You could tell.
Yeah.
I don't see it ever happening because I think he's a head coach at heart. I don't think he'll ever take an OC job. Now, if there was a place he would, it's Green Bay. He's been very vocal that he loves Green Bay, Wisconsin. But the problem with that is it's kind of like you going out and signing a $15 million backup quarterback. What you now do is you welcome in criticism to the starter. And if you've got John Gruden as your OC and the team struggles with Matt LaFleur head coach, they'd be calling for his head. It would just be this constant thing, right? So
doesn't his son also do like strength and conditioning?
He does. He's
for the Raiders, right?
He's a scrappy little guy, from what I remember. But
I thought it was photoshopped when I seen how short he was. I was like, "Oh wait, that's a real person." And he's wider than he is tall. You know what I mean? Really, really interesting look. So, So there you go, guys. There's the breakdown again. Got you some updated news on Jim Leonhard. Sound like there's mutual interest there. We broke down the left tackle position. We broke down left guard and center together because we got some moving parts, some interchangeable parts there. So if you guys are watching this back later, let us know in the comments, what do you think about everything we covered today? We greatly appreciate all the new subs. Picked up a bunch this morning. I know as we talked about Rasheed Walker and that whole issue, turns out people like it when you jump in here live every time something breaks. So we're up to 8,157 subs. We're on our march to 9,000 subs. So if you guys haven't subbed yet, do us a big favor. Hit that sub and make sure you click the bell icon so you don't miss out when we go live. If news breaks here in a little bit, I'll go live again. As it sits right now, the next time we do go live, we'll dive into right guard, right tackle, and then we'll get into some prospects. And we've got full prospect reports, scouting reports over in the Patreon group. You can go read up on Jake Slaughter. Let me give you a quick little sample here before we wrap up, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about. They're quick. They're to the point. These are not my personal opinions. This is kind of around the draft community, how they feel about these prospects. There's Jake Slaughter from Florida, right? You're going to get everything, position, what class, redshirt senior, graduating class of 2026, the size range, all that biographical overview. You'll get the physical profile and athleticism, technical skills, pass protection, run blocking, versatility, the intangibles. We'll talk about his draft projection, all that, his key accolades, 2024 first team All-American, 2-time first team All-SEC. And then you've got the PFF top 10 rated center as well. So just little things like that you'll get with the prospect reports. What I'd like to do is very, very soon at these key positions, we're going to do episodes where we do those highlights, and then we'll edit it out to where you guys have a video, 7, 8, maybe 10 minutes long, right? Of, all right, here's who Jake Slaughter is, just so you can get information in real time as we move along. So Mike Z with the super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, please hit the like button to support this amazing project. We have an amazing family here, and the Patreon is amazing. Go Pack Go. Thank you so much, Mike, man. You're always too kind, buddy. We greatly, greatly appreciate you. And everybody that's joined the Patreon, everybody who subbed to the channel, really, really appreciate everybody's support. So we're going to get out of here. Jacob, Tim, appreciate y'all joining me. We will be back when news breaks, or we get extra time to break down the rest of the offensive line. So that's Tim in Green Bay. That's Jacob in Wisconsin. I'm Clayton down here in Redneckville, USA, a.k.a. Tennessee. And this is PTA. We'll see you guys soon.
Here we go.
Nice.
Bye, guys.